Welcome to the Philadelphia Sports Table Podcast Show, the longest running weekly Philly sports podcast show in the world, over 12 and a half years strong. Love being in your ears. If you're watching on YouTube, welcome to the PST Podcast Show. You can always head on over to PhiladelphiaSportsTable.com and check out all of our shows. I'm Jeff Warren. Here, my good buddy Len Hunsicker. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. I hope everybody's having a good week out there. Are you ready for the snow?
Here's the thing, okay? I was listening to one Glenn Hurricane Schwartz who came over my TikTok feed, and he said we need to calm things down a little bit. And I, knowing, well, I don't really know Hurricane Schwartz, but, I feel like I've known him for years. I'm going to take his advice, and I'm going to keep things calm. I'm not going to get crazy. Do I hope that the state of Pennsylvania, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, because of everybody staying in on Sunday, smells like French toast? Yes, I do. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I'm gonna go because I have to work tomorrow. But Friday is first of my days off, and I'm gonna go to the store in the afternoon. I'm not gonna go at night. But
milk and bread.
We're gonna see how that goes.
Yes,
see if I can get in and out without getting into a fist fight.
I'll be honest. I went to the grocery store. I always go halfway through the week to get certain essential stuff for the twins. And there were a ton of people today. I went over my lunch break around 12 o'clock, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of people here. People get ready.
I think the panic is starting, and it's only going to get worse. Yeah.
I love it. I love human beings at times. I really do. I know you don't.
That makes one of us.
All right. Well, folks, we got a great show coming your way. Got some Phillies talk, Major League Baseball talk as well. We're also going to dive into the Philadelphia 76ers and specifically talk about Jared McCain, where his very short career has gone. Seems like it has kind of fizzled out here at this point in the 2025-2026 Sixers season. Now, what we're throwing down on the table this week, we've got Ed Kracz from the Eagles over at SI. He's going to join us for a postmortem on the Eagles' offensive season, specifically diving into the offense, what may be in store for the team and the organization this coming offseason. It's going to be great to talk to Ed. So, Len, let's just get into this Philadelphia Phillies team. Yes, it's the offseason. I would highly recommend everybody go back into the feed. I had an opportunity this past week to go to the Reading Hot Stovers banquet where I spoke to Von Hayes, Doug Glanville, and also Bob Dernier, and great conversations. We always love going there. I always love being there and interviewing various MLB and Phillies players. But really, I'm so happy, Len. I truly am, that the Phillies actually have re-signed JT Realmuto to a 3-year, $45 million contract. He's coming back. It seems like this was an inevitability in my mind, and the whole Bo Bichette talk was like, okay, if they do that, they're probably not going to be able to bring JT back. And the fact that we would have had Garrett Stubbs or Rafael Marchand as the catcher of the future was a little concerning to me. And yes, he's 35 years old. JT Realmuto is, and he's getting up there. But I'm glad that they got this done. What were your thoughts when you heard that the signing finally came through?
I mean, don't get me wrong. I like
feelings?
Realmuto. I'm happy he's back. I think that he still gives you so much from a defensive standpoint and a game calling standpoint that you have to kind of overlook the offense, which is diminishing, has been diminishing for some time. And I think by the time this contract goes over, it's going to diminish even more. So I think you have to be prepared for that eventuality. But he does give you, the stuff on the defensive end and in dealing with the pitching staff and all that stuff. So that's good. And it certainly has its value. I think the thing that I am having and the feeling that a lot of people are having is it came right on the heels of Bichette signing with the Mets. So not only did they not sign with us, they signed with, one of our biggest division rivals. So that hurts in and of itself. But so I think the fact that Bichette didn't sign here overshadows any good feeling on Realmuto. And it also kind of, which I'm sure we're going to get into, but it does lean into they're running it back. They're running the offense back. Yes. And this is the offense that always fizzles in the playoffs. We've seen, I feel like there's, a already a feeling of we've seen this movie before with the Phillies, and it's really not an exciting offseason so far. Yeah, I guess they did the things they had to do. They had to resign Schwarber. They did. You got to a point where once Bichette pivoted with the Mets, then okay, that frees up any other money that the Phillies might have spent and go out and bring Realmuto back in. But it does feel an awful lot like, okay, what's new?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
So and a kind of um auxiliary, I guess, concern that it gives me is everybody is going to go into this season going, what's different? Oh, here's Justin Crawford,
That's
and
what I
they're
was
going
going
to
to say.
pin
Yeah.
all of their hopes and dreams and all and pressure on him. And if he doesn't come out of the gate fast, then there's going to be a lot of pressure on him, and there's going to be a lot of oh man, he's not ready. This sucks.
Yeah.
We're back to getting nothing out of the outfield, and our guys are all one more year older. So, I mean, it sounds like they're done. Dombrowski said, I'm happy with the lineup being the way it is. So I mean, they have to, you know, all play as good as they did last year or better offensively. Otherwise, I mean, there's the potential, I think, for this season to go on the wrong tracks quickly. They can't afford to have the typical slow Philly start. They have to come out of the gate hitting, and they're going to have to manufacture excitement, because I don't feel
Yeah.
like with this offseason,
Yeah.
the excitement is just going to be there because we've seen all these guys before.
Yeah, it's going to be a prove to us that we should be
Yes.
excited. Prove to
Yeah.
us that we should be. And I think rightfully so. And from what you're saying, the theme really is of this off season and how we're viewing 2026 kind of just meh. We're kind of just meh at this point. But then
It's just
I was going to
ever
say,
since
yeah.
go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, even though we're feeling like that, because I'm feeling it too, I'm absolutely feeling it. And I wonder if I'm really reaching here, and tell me if I am, the fact that we are likely going to have a healthy Bryce Harper, and will he stay healthy all season? Who the hell knows? And with Justin Crawford too, Andrew Painter, I think there are these glimmers and little sparks of hope that we can hang on to heading into this season. But I don't know if I'm reaching here in order to remain
No,
optimistic about where this team is going to go.
I don't think so. I think that that Bryce Harper is the question is, can they adequately protect him in the lineup and make sure he's seeing pitches to hit, because he
Yeah.
had the lowest amount of pitches in the zone to hit in baseball last year. But I think that whole, and I don't think it was by design. I think it was genuinely a gaffe on Dombrowski's part. But that whole thing of, oh, Bryce Harper didn't have an elite year last year, can he get to that elite level again? That questioning of Bryce Harper, you can tell Harper's there's already been photos of him, taking batting practice in a shirt that says not elite. So I genuinely think he is out to basically, I'm going to do well and I'm going to stuff it up your ass, Dombrowski. I think
Yeah.
that is his attitude heading into the season, which it could be great. I mean, that could be a catalyst that
I
lights a
love it.
fire under him
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
really makes him have a great year. Hopefully, it doesn't go in the opposite direction where he's looking too much and he's chasing too much and all that stuff. I mean, he does have to maintain some semblance of discipline at the plate.
Right.
And if he's not getting the pitches to hit, it's going to make it harder for him to be disciplined. And I think that's where some of the concern is with the Phillies offseason is we didn't do anything to protect him, because Schwarber is going to be back at the top of the order. So it's not like he's going to be right behind Harper in the on deck circle when Harper's
Right.
at the plate. That's not going to happen. So who's behind Harper protecting him in the lineup? So I would be buying on Bryce Harper this year if I was doing like a fantasy baseball thing. I would be buying on Harper this year because I do think he has a chip on his shoulder towards his own, president of baseball operations.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily mean he does get hurt sometimes. So I mean it could happen. But I'm buying on Bryce Harper this year. But I just it's the thing of, okay, we reached this point in we made the World Series. Okay, we lost to Houston, And then the next year it was one step back as far as, one less round.
Yep.
And the year after that, again, one less round. And it just feels like they topped out in that World Series against Houston,
Yeah.
of making it there. And it's been one more step back each year. And you didn't really change anything in the offseason after a couple straight years of dismal offensive performances in playoff exits. So it's just like, well, what's changed? What's going to be different about this year?
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of the fans, lack of excitement stems from.
Yeah. It's we're going to continue to talk about this Phillies team in the coming weeks and of course the coming months here when spring training starts as well. I think there's going to be somewhat of excitement regarding this team, but as we're moving along, Len, too, and again, knowing that you're going to have to go to work in a little bit here, really wanted to talk about the Kyle Tucker signing to the Dodgers. A group of Major League Baseball team owners are apparently so upset with the Los Angeles Dodgers that they're going to be pushing for
maybe they should be the Los Angeles Dollars.
Yes,
I mean,
yes. Why didn't we think of this? Has anybody not thought that? Did I just screw up?
It's the one slip of the tongue you've ever had that was actually genius.
Yeah, there we go. Once and done, folks. Yeah. That's it. Done. The Los Angeles oh my God, I almost said it again. The Dodgers.
Now you're never going to say their name right again.
Exactly. So there's team owners throughout Major League Baseball. They're going to be pushing for a salary cap in the very near future. And that's because the Dodgers did strike a deal to bring Kyle Tucker to Los Angeles for free agency this offseason. And it just a ridiculous amount of money, $240 million deal. The $60 million average annual value is the second largest in Major League Baseball history behind Shohei Ohtani, his 10-year $700 million deal. The Dodgers are just absolutely buying up the best players in Major League Baseball, and they can. Major League Baseball allows them to do it. There is no salary cap. But this, I think, Len, could be the straw that breaks the camel's back. And I think it could level the playing field with certain smaller market teams, perhaps mid-level market teams as well. I actually think it might be a good thing for Major League Baseball at this point in time in 2026. What are your thoughts on this potential salary cap? We haven't talked about it in a bit.
I mean, on the surface, what the Dodgers are doing, you're right. They are under the rules of Major League Baseball. They are allowed to operate this way, and that's fine. They're not doing anything wrong or illegal or cheating in any way, shape, or form. So I want to get that out up front with the Dodgers. I'm not, begrudging them anything. Hey, they're spending the money. Good for them.
Yep.
But when I saw the crawl on ESPN that Tucker, who I was like, okay, maybe he'll go to Toronto and that'll strengthen that lineup, and maybe they'll get a good run in again. But when I saw he signed with the Dodgers, I actually did audibly say, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
Right?
Because it's it's overkill. And so let's go through. Here's a list of the Dodgers players with 9-figure deals.
Please, thank you.
So Shohei Ohtani, 10 years, $700 million. Mookie Betts, 12 years, $365 million.
Almost forgot about him.
Yoshinobu Yamamoto, 12 years, $325 million. Kyle Tucker, 4 years, $240 million. Blake Snell, 5 years, $182 million. Freddie Freeman, 6 years, $162 million. Will Smith, 10 years, $140 million.
Yes.
And finally, Tyler Glasnow, 5 years, $136 million and change. So
that fucking lineup,
it's fucking crazy. It's bonkers.
God,
there is a small part of me, and I'll never root for the Dodgers under any circumstances.
Right,
but there is a small part of me that hopes to God they go 162-0 and go undefeated in the playoffs, so that Major League Baseball heading into this whole CBA thing can go, all right, guys, look, this isn't even fun anymore.
Right.
Nobody outside of your organization likes our product because it's just so lopsided to one team. And I let's not act like, and I've seen Dodgers fans go, oh, why doesn't your team do it? Well,
some teams can't.
Plenty of teams. Look, there are some teams out there that have dog shit owners, and that sucks. And I'm glad that the Phillies are not one of them. But yeah, I mean, there's plenty of teams out there like the Phillies that do spend money that still just don't
Can't
have
get
the
over the hump.
resources
Yeah.
to play in that level
Yeah.
of financially. It's not realistic. And
Right.
maybe part of that is the deferrals that LA has worked into their contract structure. Maybe that's something that goes by the wayside. But I in a way, I hope that the Dodgers win so much and it's so lopsided this year that Major League Baseball has no choice but to go, guys, like
Yeah.
we can't do this because our fans aren't even interested in the product anymore, because why do you want to watch this when nobody else is going to win at all? I
Yeah.
mean, there's no point. So I mean, I feel like I say it every week whenever we talk about Major League Baseball. I have a feeling that we're heading to a bad place after this season with the CBA anyway. But this is just a new wrinkle, because it is cartoonish is the best word.
That's
I
a
can
great word.
point in terms of the disparity. It's crazy. So yeah, something. I have a feeling they're going to get to a point where something has to be done, because it's just going to look bonkers otherwise.
Yeah. I think
And
this is
the players may not like it, but guess what? There's plenty of guys in every other sport that are operating under a salary cap.
Yep.
And it doesn't hurt them. They're living just fine.
I was going to say they're living life,
Yeah,
Yes.
they're
Yes.
living in a world that nobody that's watching this show or participating in this show will ever have the luxury to live at.
Right.
So you're all doing just fine. And I don't want to be like, oh, I'm pro owner, because I don't like either of them.
Right.
We're
not like that on this show. We are always pro player. We want players to get paid. We want players to get their money. We always have.
Yeah, generally I am, but and maybe it's the political landscape, and maybe it's just doom and gloom every single day, every time you read an article and everywhere you look. But I'm just like, I can't care about the millionaires and I can't care about the billionaires, because all I'm doing is looking at the fact that I'm never going to be able to retire, because I won't be able to afford, healthcare.
Yeah.
So you can all go fuck yourselves.
Yeah.
That's part of why I'm like almost girding myself for the end of the year to go, fuck you, baseball.
Yeah.
If they go and do this, because I don't think either of those groups realize, and especially the players, because they're the ones that are going to fight tooth and nail against salary cap. I don't think they realize how out of touch they're going to look.
Absolutely.
So,
boy, what a great way to end that segment.
Yeah.
Don't get them mad, folks. Don't get Len Hunsicker mad here.
No,
okay?
it's nothing I'm saying here
I'm
is
messing around.
is not legitimate.
Messing around, folks. If you are listening to us or watching us on YouTube, like and subscribe to the Philadelphia Sports Table podcast show here. Share our podcast with your friends, your family who are into the world of Philly sports. And even if they're not, we've got a lot of great sports talk on this podcast platform. We are going to take a break, and when we come back, going to have some Sixers talk, and then get to what we are throwing down on the table. Stick with us. All right, we are back, and now we're going to be diving into some Sixers talk, specifically with one particular gentleman, and that gentleman is Jared McCain. And Len, it looks as though the Sixers front office, Daryl Morey, looks like they may have whiffed on Jared McCain, what seemed to be a promising pick based on his hot start last year. His rookie season certainly has fizzled. And it's a storyline I wanted to bring up because of where this franchise and organization is at right now. I mean, again, we thought they landed a steal in the 2024 NBA draft when McCain began his career as the best rookie in the class. A year later, he's returning from injury, yes, and things have not gone as expected for him. And a player that they actually passed on, it looks like, probably would have been a better selection. But McCain's injury recovery has been a long, arduous one. And, he's come back as a shell of the rookie phenom that he was. He's shooting only 32.3% from deep, 35.4% from the field overall. And in fact, he's not doing that great of a job in the G League as well, as his shooting struggles. Seems like the Sixers may have whiffed on him. And quite frankly, it's a big deal in terms of what the building of this team is and what we hoped that it would look like in the future. So wanted to get your thoughts on it, man, because it's kind of depressing to see where Jared McCain is at this point, given the high hopes we had that rookie season.
I mean,
or am I being too emotional about it?
I don't know if emotional is the right word. I would say maybe premature. And this is coming from a guy that maybe this is the middle-aged man in me, but like I saw when he was drafted and the whole TikTok dances, and I was like, Jesus Christ. But then he played, right, and he was great last year, like you had mentioned. And I was like, damn, this kid can play. And he's had some injury things. I don't think he forgot how to play basketball. I think we are shoveling dirt on this kid's on the grave of this kid's career a little bit early, if you ask me. I mean, things happen. People get hurt. Sometimes you run. He had the UCL injury last year, and then he had a meniscus injury. He had the injury with his thumb in training camp, and it's unfortunate. But as we've seen some with maybe too many people, and I think that's part of what plays into it here, because it's the Sixers and it's a Sixers injury history. But sometimes things snowball. Sometimes
that's the part of it, the injury history of this team. Do you know what I mean? Like that's where I'm at right now.
And I think that's where a lot of the apprehension is for the fan base, and a lot of the emotional scarring with the fan base is like there's a bit of a sense of here we go again with regard to that. And now it's Jared McCain's turn. Sometimes you roll from one injury right into the other, and it affects your preparation. It affects your ability to get into a rhythm. And if you're a shooter, it's very much a rhythm thing. So I think that is something that Jared McCain is dealing with right now. Every now and again, and it's in any sport, you have a season where at the end of it, the best thing you can do is go, you know what, flush it, because flush it, move on. And I think that may be kind of where we're at with Jared McCain this year. This year sucks. The important thing is keep working, remain healthy, and maybe this just isn't your year. And then, just do your prep, get in the best shape you can, be as prepared as you can going into next season. And when we'll see what next season brings, because, it's different than last year when he was doing so well for the team. You're not looking at him to be the starting guard anymore. I mean, you're just looking for him to be third guard, on the team, the first guard off the bench,
good depth piece,
rotational depth piece, and maybe an instant offense, guy off of the bench. I think I don't know if I've used the comp before. I feel like I have on the show, but like if people if you're of a certain age and you remember the Pistons, you had Isaiah Thomas and Joe Dumars, and then you had the microwave, Vinnie Johnson, coming off the bench. That is where I'm hoping Jared McCain could be for this team, because I think you've got Maxey, you've got Edgecombe, you've got your two starting guards. I think McCain, I want him to come back. I'm not looking to trade him, because I want him to be a part of a backcourt that we can be confident in, because we have questions up front. And that's where I would like to see, the Sixers, have to focus their transactional efforts in building up that front court for the future. That to me is something I would like to see them prioritize. So I'm hoping McCain can come back so that they don't have to go acquire more guard depth, because I feel like if he can come back, they shouldn't need to do that. So I'm willing to give this kid some time. I mean, I think we need to.
I think it's fair.
I mean, it sucks. This year has not been good for him. And, I just think, sometimes you just have to eat it, and you have to go through it. And then when it's over, be like, okay, this is done. I'm going to put everything I can into being ready next year. And then we're going to hit the ground running, and we're going to roll. And that's what I hope happens next year.
I feel like I panicked by putting this on the agenda, to be honest with you. Seriously, you make a lot of sense. You make a lot of sense.
But the thing is, it could potentially, he wouldn't be the first person to be like, what the hell happened? His career just derailed all of a sudden.
Right.
He wouldn't be the first person this happened to. But at the same time, I can't reconcile the fact that he was so good last year with the guy that he is this year. I can't believe his ability would completely disappear from him forever and ever. Amen. In the span of 1 year.
Exactly. All right. Well, great discussions. And folks, if you are watching on YouTube, let us know what you're thinking about the Sixers. Jared McCain would absolutely love to hear from you in the comments. And feel free to shoot us off an email as well, philadelphiasportstable@gmail.com. If you're listening on whatever podcast platform, love to read your email here on the show and respond to it. We did get some emails. Hopefully we'll get to them in some future episodes. If they are relevant, we'd love to read your emails here. But just from a timing perspective, we got to make sure this sweet boy can get to work in a bit here. And I appreciate, Len, how you're wearing an orange hoodie. It matches the new colors that we have here on the platform.
Yeah, I was in the middle of talking at one point, and I looked down. I was like, oh hey, it works.
It works for sure, buddy. I'll let you go. You got any final thoughts before we go to break?
No, just let's all survive Snowpocalypse 2026.
Yes, let's survive it, folks. All right, we get back, folks. Got a lot of Eagles talk specifically with the offense. Stick with us. Joining us to dive into this Philadelphia Eagles past season, a postmortem, folks, and we really got to get into the details of this, specifically from the offensive side of things. We have one of our really good friends. He's been coming on the podcast for years and years. Over at SI Eagles Today, our good friend Ed Kracz. Ed, man, thank you so much for taking the time to jump on. I know you've been doing a lot of deep dives into this Philadelphia Eagles offense, so I appreciate it, man.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of deep diving that has to take place.
Absolutely,
this offense. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, it's good to see you, my friend, and diving into again this Eagles offense here. It just a remarkable season, quite frankly, for me as a fan in a lot of ways. A team that had a winning record, yet we get to the latter part of the season and we're thinking, my goodness, things are just not changing. When we as fans, I mean, I'm a dope here on this podcast, an Eagles fan. I'm not a coach. I'm not a front office executive, but I know my football. You have been one of the longest Eagles beat reporters down in Philly. And for this Eagles team for so many years, you've been doing this, your football as well. Just so extremely frustrating from an offensive perspective. No secret at all. But I think what was infuriating, enraging, frustrating, disappointing, all of it, Ed, was the level of sheer hope that the fan base had that we would see something a little different and perhaps a little something new from week to week, because we know the talent that this offensive roster is and was, but that never really happened. So from a pure coaching perspective, we'll get into some player perspective aspects of this in a bit, but from a pure coaching perspective, how and why did we continue to see the same old, stale, and predictable offensive scheme and play calling week after week after week with little to no variations? What are your thoughts here from what you've seen?
Yeah, every season, Jeff, and you know this, and your listeners know this, presents a different challenge. Every team is different, right?
Yeah.
It's the old cliche, no team stays the same. But I can't recall a time in my, more than 12 years covering this team full time where the offense just looked the way it did, which was really dysfunctional, really disjointed. As you mentioned, each week brought hope that, hey, maybe we're going to see something a little different. Maybe so, and I think there were maybe some games where we saw some, glimmers of the offense looking like, okay, this is it. But the little spark just kind of went out. It never really caught fire.
Yep.
So it was, really frustrating from that standpoint. And as to why, I think play calling and play design, yeah, absolutely. They were a part of that. But I don't think you can put just that at the top. That's probably at the top of the list if you want to, order this. But it's not just that. It's not one reason for what we saw this past season. Like I said, a season to me that I'd never seen before. from an offense. There are other aspects to it as well, but the face of that offense was Kevin Patullo, obviously, and he was promoted from within. That always hasn't worked for the Eagles. We saw Brian Johnson get promoted from within, and he lasted a year and he was out the door. And that's the same with Kevin Patullo. So,
well, really quick, Ed, really quick. Yeah. Something I mentioned on the podcast a couple weeks ago was that perhaps the front office, and I could be completely wrong about this, but from a hindsight being 2020, when they got rid of their defensive coach in the 2023 season, after it was a disaster, bring in Matt Patricia, still a complete disaster, that they fell off that 6-game losing streak where they just fell off a cliff. I don't necessarily think they would want that to happen again, making that coaching change right mid-season or the latter part of the season, maybe 2/3 of the way through the season. My thought was, hindsight being 2020, they didn't want to just make a coaching change in the middle of the season. I'm wondering if that played a part in it just because of what happened in 2023 and how 2023 ended.
Yeah, that's sort of how I viewed it too, Jeff, was the Eagles did replace Sean Desai with Matt Patricia. Patricia was in the building. They brought him in, earlier in the season to be kind of a consultant. And I think they learned from that. Things didn't get better. And they had this Matt Patricia guy, right, who was a Super Bowl champion with Bill Belichick and had all these credentials, but yet things did not improve. And
right.
I think they learned from that. Otherwise, maybe they do make a move. But then the question would have been, okay, who's going to do it? Is Sirianni going to be the play caller? He did not want to do just play calling. So who do you turn to? I mean, there was nobody like, Frank Reich in the building, someone that,
right.
Or even Nick Foles, who, to me would be a great OC, but that's another story. But there was nobody to turn to. I mean, who are you going to do? Jeff Stoutland? I mean, he's kind of the assistant head coach, run game coordinator. The run game was, awful.
We'll get to that in a second.
But the point being is who you're going to turn to. Jamal Singleton, maybe Scott Loeffler, who had done it in college at Bowling Green, no real NFL experience. So, those two things I think combined is why they didn't move away from Patullo, in November or after Thanksgiving, whenever.
Yeah. Well, I from an offensive perspective, Ed, and specifically with the run blocking from the offensive line that we saw, I mean, the complete regression, or just you use the word disjointed nature of what this offensive line was from a run blocking perspective. Pass protection, pass pro, I thought was pretty positive throughout this season, but man, the run blocking, as we all saw, was just terrible for much of the season. It's amazing that Saquon Barkley got the yards that he actually ended up getting at the end of the season. And I know a bunch of guys were injured throughout the entire season, mainly Cam Jurgens, Landon Dickerson. Jordan Mailata just didn't seem to have the same dominance that we have seen from him in the past. And of course, Lane Johnson not able to finish the season as well. It was just an offensive line that was, like you said, disjointed and just so inconsistent. It's not what we're used to as Eagles fans. We've been very spoiled over the years. But for the run blocking with this offensive line to have been as bad as it was, because it was bad, we all saw it. Was there something more going on than just the health of the offensive line from what you know?
Yeah, well, I think there's the physical part of that when you talk about the health, and then there's the mental part of it. Physically, they're a very physical offensive line. They like to play physically. They like to win that battle in the trenches. To me, I'm not sure that same mental focus was there. Obviously the injuries were a part of it. Cam Jurgens, back surgery. Landon Dickerson battled through 3 or 4 different injuries. Only one guy made every start on that O-line. That was Tyler Steen, kind of the newcomer. Yeah. He made every start. Jordan Mailata, like you mentioned, wasn't. And, aside, and I'm sure he's battling something. He would never admit to it, but he was a big proponent of taking that final week off of the regular season to heal up, to get well physically and mentally. The mental part of this is, I think, playing 21 games last year, getting up every single game and playing at such a high physical level. I think mentally might have been hard for them to do. I mean, we
Yeah.
just saw them kind of, their interest just didn't seem, they didn't have that urgency or that,
It's a great word. Yeah, urgency.
It just seemed lacking at times. And I'm not sure. It's concerning to me with Cam Jurgens. I mean, he was a Pro Bowl center. I don't know how.
I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, I mean, he would just let guys get right by him. Like, I thought it was interesting that the Eagles re-signed him to a big contract after he had back surgery last year. I don't think Cam was ever 100% all year, and I wonder if that back has taken its toll. You know, it certainly did in this early part of the season, and it really never seemed to go away. And now you wonder, geez, after an offseason of rest, their season was over so much earlier this year. They didn't have to play those extra games, but can he get back to what he was in that Super Bowl run last year? They're paying him a lot of money. They have faith that he will, and you hope that he can. I mean, he's 26 years old. I think he'll return and play in his 26th year. So he's young. That's a concern. Another concern, is this line has played so many snaps because they're always in the postseason. So, they play every snap in the regular season, more or less, at least before this year. And then comes the postseason where they've logged an extra. Last year, they probably put in an extra 300 snaps in 4 games. I mean, that takes its toll. So you look at it like a Landon Dickerson, who's 27 years old, but the wear and tear on him might make him look like he's playing as a 33-year-old or something like that because of all these snaps that he logged. So even though they're young in age, you wonder if this physical toll, this playing week in and week out and playing at such a high physical level, has kind of worn them down a little bit. And that's an overarching concern for everybody on that line. My concern with Jurgens is the back, with Dickerson and Lane Johnson couldn't even make it through a full season. And Jordan Mailata, you wonder if, they're in their 20s, but maybe with all these snaps, they're more like players in their 30s at this point. If that
Absolutely. Look, there were some things I saw online where people were saying, what is Jeff Stoutland doing? My gosh, what is Jeff Stoutland thinking here? And I mean, Jeff Stoutland is the foundational pieces that he has laid for this Eagles offensive line over the years. I don't think anybody should be really questioning Jeff Stoutland and his coaching abilities at this point. I mean, there's only so much you can do. I'm assuming as a coach, when the guys who are out on the field just can't have the drive that they have had because of the injuries that you just mentioned. So I just want to be clear, this isn't a Stoutland thing, correct? I kind of want to put that to rest.
Yeah, I don't think it is. Okay. He has been at it a long time. I don't think he's changed anything in his approach and the way he works his guys. I just think that, like I said before, the physical and mental part of playing offensive line in Philadelphia takes its toll. Now, I will say the depth this year of the line wasn't the best. It was young.
It was rough,
I thought they should have put Cam Jurgens on IR at some point when he was struggling with the knee and let his back rest and this and that. I mean, he had a couple guys, Drew Kendall, the rookie center who they picked, who started the last game of the regular season, who I thought, played well, at least in my eyes. It's hard to judge offensive line play. But, he looked like he did a pretty good job. And talking to some of the guys that are starters on the line seemed to agree that, Kendall played well. So, I would have liked to have seen them work a little bit more with that young depth and give some of these guys a little bit of a break, like Jurgens on an IR, maybe give Mailata a couple games to nurse whatever he's going through, give Dickerson some time off so he doesn't feel the pressure to play every single week. But they never went in that direction. And, I think that makes this offensive line someplace that Howie Roseman's going to have to address, I should say. In the offseason, whether it's through free agency or the draft, you got to bring in some depth. And you hope that these young guys like Cam Williams and Drew Kendall and Miles Hinton and Willie Lampkin, these guys can take that step into year 2 next year and be better and a little more trustworthy for Stoutland than some of these other coaches.
Absolutely. Offensive line needs more depth for sure. And the next topic, Ed, I wanted to dive into the most 3 and outs of any offense in the NFL. I mean, it's a stat that just is embarrassing. And again, as somebody who would do a post-game podcast show after every game, just enraging, and we would talk about it continuously throughout the season. What does this say, this theme here that we saw this season with the 3 and outs, most in the NFL, what does it say about where this offense needs to go as we're heading into the 2026 season? And also, is it really a reflection of the players on the team as well? What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, and that could be more of a scheme thing, like that's where I think I would come down a little harder on the play calling and the play design is those 3 and outs. I thought that was a big part of it, but then on the player side of it, there were penalties on drives that kind of on first down, especially where AJ Brown gets a false start. So now it's first and 15, or, someone gets hit with a holding penalty and you're in first and 20. And then that makes it a little more difficult to dig out of that hole. And, that seemed to be kind of a theme this year. But there were times where, they came out and threw 3 passes and had to punt because they were incomplete or they only picked up 7 yards. So, I think that is where I would come down a little harder on Kevin Patullo, is scheming things up, coming out with maybe a little bit different type of plan. I mean, how many times do we see Jalen Hurts go under center and just hand the ball off? I mean, it became predictable.
Yeah.
And I think that is another reason they had a lot of 3 and outs, is just the play calling wasn't as good or as sharp or as crisp, whatever you want to say, as it should have been to put players in position to get first downs. It was really baffling to me.
Or innovative, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it wasn't an innovative offense at all. And again, like I said, I'm some guy doing this podcast here. I'm not an NFL expert. I'm not a play calling expert or even a play design expert. But I've known my football over the years to know that there was nothing explosive about this offense from a play design perspective that was going to net at times. You need a nice 30-yard explosive play, and there was nothing that was really going to get us that from week to week.
Right, or a 12-yard completion on 4th and 11 to end of their season. I mean, you just run 3 vertical routes. Yes. Meanwhile, you see the Buffalo Bills throwing these hook and ladder plays that are catching. They did it 3 times. That always go in for a big gain. I mean, where's that?
Yes.
Where's we saw a Bronco catch a Bronco tackle eligible, go out and catch a touchdown pass. Yep. We saw Lane Johnson under Shane Steichen go out and catch a touchdown pass. Why aren't you throwing? Why? And that's just a couple things. I mean,
right.
And you don't want to be throwing to your tackle all the time.
Right.
But, the element of surprise, hit him with some surprise. It was just, and again, Patullo paid the price. I don't want to keep, ramming on him here, but, he paid the ultimate price. He lost his job.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it, that's at the top of the list for me on these 3 and outs, is you got to have a little more ingenuity to pick up first downs.
Really quick before we go to break here, Ed, too. I mean, everybody's saying Nick Sirianni should be on the hot seat. Of course, this next season, blah, blah, blah. I do wonder how culpable he was. Yes, he's the head coach, but he has a decent sized leash, I think, at this point, given the fact that what he's done during his tenure. The Eagles continue to go to the playoffs with him as a head coach. They've won a Super Bowl. They've been to another Super Bowl as well, which they did lose. But I do wonder what that leash is with him. Real quick, before we go to break, what are your thoughts on Sirianni and if he is going to end up being on the hot seat in 2026?
Yeah, I think the Eagles probably need to make the playoffs. I mean, they've made it all 5 years on his watch here. He's won 65 games in 5 years, and counting the playoffs. I mean, it's a great record. It's a great track record. Yeah. He gets a lot of heat for, I'm not sure why. Maybe there's this perception of arrogance that he kind of exudes and talks to the fans and is always like mugging for the cameras. And, maybe that rubs people the wrong way. But to me, what he does beyond the X's and O's, the culture he builds, and getting guys, 70 different players that are in that locker room, coming from different socioeconomic backgrounds, different pasts, getting them all to buy in. That's a hard thing to do, and that he's been able to do it, and they all connect. And I don't have a problem with them bringing him back this year at all. But the leash, if he doesn't make the playoffs next year and it looks pretty bad, that contract, he signed a big contract coming out of the Super Bowl. Nobody knows what it is, but I'm willing to say it's probably $18 million a year for 3 to 5 years. And so you don't want to move on from that too quickly, but I think this organization, they're not afraid to move on from stuff like that. And if he doesn't make the playoffs, I think that might be the leash that might run him out of town, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Well, folks, we are going to take a break here, and when we get back, we got some more great talking points and storylines to get into with Ed. We're going to be talking about Jalen Hurts. We're going to be talking about where this offensive coordinator position is going to go. And yes, folks, we're going to talk about the tush push, what the future holds for that particular play, not just for the Eagles, but in the entire NFL. Let's take that break. We're going to be back in just a bit. All right, we are back with our good friend Ed Kracz over at Eagles Today, over on SI. Check out everything he has going on. If you're on the Twitter/X, yes, I'm still on there. The show's still on there. Amazingly enough, Ed's a great follow, though. He is a great follow at Kracz E, correct?
That's it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I remember it. Of course, I remember it. I
Nice
should
job.
after all these years. Yes, at Kracz E. Great content from Ed. He's got a great track on what happens with this Philadelphia Eagles team, not just during the season, but the offseason as well. So now I'd love to dive into the next offensive coordinator, who that is going to be. And you recently wrote an article over on Eagles Today at SI about who that new offensive coordinator should be. That individual, none other than Joe Brady, in your opinion, who has been the offensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills for several years now at this point. And quite frankly, I'd love this as well. I was also hoping that Mike McDaniel would be in the picture, but he's going to be heading to the Los Angeles Chargers to be their offensive coordinator. What would Joe Brady or the next offensive coordinator, in your mind, Ed, really need to bring to the table to fix this Eagles offense next year?
Yeah, I think what I like about Joe Brady is he's got this everybody eats philosophy that was on display in Buffalo this year. He had James Cook, who led the league in rushing, so he got him enough carries to put him over 1,600 yards on the ground.
Yep.
Eagles have Saquon Barkley. We saw what he did last year, over 2,000 yards. He had 5 different players catch at least 33 passes, that keeps keeps defenses kind of on their heels a little bit. You can't kind of just zero in on one target. And he had Josh Allen. He had his highest completion percentage of his career this year, close to 70%. So all those factors to me, if you substitute some of those names in with the Philadelphia Eagles, Devontae Smith, AJ Brown, whoever the tight ends are going to be, Saquon Barkley, and then Jalen Hurts. I mean, I think Brady would work really well with them. And, I know the Eagles interviewed him a couple of years ago. He was a little younger then. I think he's 36 now, or all these ages run together because I'm looking at so many different candidates, but he's still in his 30s. We'll say that. And, he's proven himself. He worked in Carolina with a couple quarterbacks. He had, Cam Newton came out of retirement one year for him. And, he had PJ Palmer, I think, was the kid from Temple. He was working with him, and they were winning games with some of these quarterbacks that, aren't exactly household names, or Cam Newton's case, he was at the end of his career. So, I like his track record. I think working with Josh Allen in a tough place with a lot of expectation and pressure in Buffalo, which is what you're going to have here, obviously, in Philadelphia. But, he's handled that. And I think he would be a great candidate if the Bills don't let him get out the door, or if the Bills let him get out the door. I mean, he might be their head coach in Buffalo, but I think he'd be a really good fit for the Eagles as OC.
I think it'd be great to see some more consistent mesh routes and some Texas routes by the running back. That'd be really nice in an offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I mean, all that stuff. Yeah, more crossing routes, more throws between the numbers. Maybe even some screen passes. The Eagles used to be a really good screen team, and now all of a sudden they're not. So.
Exactly, that West Coast offense mentality, was working for a while.
Yeah. So I know Saquon's not a great catcher of the football. I mean, they missed Kenny Gainwell. Let's face it. I think in that third down
Absolutely.
role, very underrated. They let him go, and he was really good catching the ball and then making a move in space and turning a 3rd and 7 on a short throw into a first down. So but I'd like to see them get back into more of a screen situation. Now it's interesting with the OC. How many changes is he going to be allowed to make on that staff? That was one of the questions I asked Nick on the end of the season press conference. Him and Howie Roseman had was, how many changes will he be allowed to make on the staff? And Nick said, well, it's too early to talk about that. And then he went on to rave about some of the guys that are on the staff. To me, he doesn't want to get rid of them. So, there might not be that freedom to bring in your own guys if you're the OC. So that might limit who they can get.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point for sure. Great question that you asked Sirianni as well there, Ed. So there's always so much talk and, frankly, a lot of rumors about the kind of guy, the kind of player that Jalen Hurts is in the locker room or on the field, what he can do in the passing game, what he can't do in the passing game as well. And I have always been, Ed, a huge fan of Jalen Hurts, and I still remain a big fan of his. But there are questions about what type of quarterback he has become in the league, even after winning a Super Bowl. I mean, he's the kind of guy we know who he's always learning, always studying the game from what we understand from reports. He's serious about his role as the quarterback for this Eagles team, but I feel at times he does need to get better in certain spots. And maybe it was just this season, the way the offense was being run by Kevin Patullo. What do we need to see from Jalen Hurts, in your opinion, this coming season to kind of quell those questions surrounding his stature on this Eagles team? What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I'd like to see him going back to becoming more of a dual threat.
Yeah.
The big question everyone asked this offseason or during the season was, why aren't you running the football more?
Yeah.
And no one really gave a good answer. But if I'm an offensive coordinator candidate, that's my question. Is how come Jalen didn't run the football?
Right.
Was that Jalen saying he didn't want to? Was it the team philosophy? We don't know. But he was a more effective quarterback, I thought, when he was running the football, keeping defenses off balance with the RPO stuff, with a little play action, rolling out and making plays, because you kind of had to play him honestly. Hey, is he going to run when he rolls out, or is he going to throw it? So you kind of had to play that in-between area. I think that's kind of it. And I know he's getting older, right? He's going to be 28 the start of next season. And, guys coming into the league are 21, 22. They're faster. They're quicker.
Yeah.
Hurts didn't seem like he still had that same burst on those occasions where he did run. He looked a little more lumbersome or, heavy-footed.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't see it enough. And I think you still have to present it more than what we saw this year in order to make him as good as he can be. And I don't know if the new OC will be given that freedom to do that. I don't know what the answer is, but if I'm the OC candidate, you darn well know I'm asking that question, like, what's up with Hurts's legs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would think that Jalen Hurts would want the opportunities when given an opportunity during the course of a game to run the ball and to make sure that he is using his legs. May not be as fast as he was 2 years ago, perhaps, but that being said, I don't think Jalen Hurts, from what has been reported, is the type of guy to say, you know what? No, I don't want to do that.
Right.
He seems to be the type of guy that says, yes, let me have the ball. Let me put this team and offense on my shoulders. Would you agree with that? That he's that type of guy?
I mean, he's a winner, right? That's all he wants to do is win. And that's always his answer to the question. He'll do whatever it takes to win. And, we've seen that in the past with some of his runs. He'll lower his shoulder. He won't slide because
right.
He's 2 yards short of the first down on third down, and he needs to pick up those 2 yards. So, he turns into a bull and makes sure he gets them. So, yeah, he'll do whatever it takes to win. I think if you're asking him to run the football more, sure, he would absolutely do it, which leads me to believe that maybe it was the team kind of keeping him, under wraps for whatever reason, trying to keep him healthy, because, I mean, a career low in yards, which I was surprised at. Usually he's over 700 yards rushing. He didn't even touch 500 this year, so it's concerning. But, he threw, on the plus side, he threw for a career high 25 touchdowns this year. I looked up the numbers recently, and I think he's got 173 total touchdowns, 63 on the ground, 110 in the air. I think the Eagles' record is McNabb, who did it in 11 years. He's had 244. So you do the math, and Hurts halfway through that 11 years that McNabb had, he could be, the all-time touchdown leader at quarterback. But will he be given the opportunity? Again,
right.
He's kind of like Sirianni. Is what's the leash going to be like? I mean, he's getting he's getting a big salary cap hit this year. Would they move on from him if they don't make the playoffs in 26? It's the same question with Sirianni. Those two are kind of joined at the hip.
Absolutely. It's a great question to keep asking and to have in the back of our minds, folks. And Ed, before I let you go, and as we're dissecting the Eagles offense and this postmortem, what we saw this past season, we got to end the discussion by talking about the tush push. So time and time again, we hear coaches throughout the league and teams in general complaining about the tush push for the past couple years. They tried to ban it last offseason. It didn't work. Yet we saw a number of teams using it throughout the season and using it to their advantage, I might add. And I didn't hear too many people complaining about Josh Allen and the Bills when they were using it,
right,
quite frankly.
Yeah, you're right.
So, like, I wonder, like, what are your thoughts on where the tush push goes from here and what it might mean for the Eagles offense maybe moving forward?
Yeah, you're right. There wasn't the same outrage,
Yes.
As there was last year. The Eagles didn't do it as well this year as they have in the past either. So they kind of got away from it a little bit. They didn't use it as much because teams were stopping it. So, that seemed to quiet all those people that wanted to criticize it. And then the Bills do it, and it's like, hey, great play.
Right.
And ironically, it was the Bills that were the loudest critics of
Yes.
the play. Sean McDermott, since canned, wasn't in favor of it. So yet he ran it, 8 times
Yes.
in their season-ending loss.
It's amazing.
So, it seems like there's a double standard with that. We haven't seen the outrage, but I still think, Jeff, that there's a chance that it probably gets banned. I mean, it was so close last year to getting outed from the league. And, I think it was 3 or 4 votes short. And I think that will still happen, that they'll get rid of that play and the pushing or the pulling. They won't allow any of that. And I still think it happens, even though there wasn't that same outrage. I mean, it seemed like every single week we were talking about the tush push.
Yep.
I'm glad we're not. I'm glad that has gone away, but I still think it's going to get banned. I do.
Okay. All right. Well, it was great talking to you, my friend. Again, folks, Ed Kracz, Eagles Today over at SI, at Kratzy over on the Twitter/X. Again, always great to talk with you, my friend. Come back and join us. I'd love to talk more Eagles, more NFL talk with you at some point down the road.
Absolutely, Jeff. Anytime.